Crypto Kids, welcome to a very important live stream where we're going to be covering President Trump's speech over in Miami. This is going to be a very important speech according to the Speaker of the House. I had to delay it a little bit because President Trump is actually 30 minutes late to his speech, so I wanted to make sure that we covered it live, and we're going to be doing President Trump's speech over in Miami. Okay, we have the live stream set. Okay, so the live stream is working perfect, so we're going to be covering President Trump's speech live here on the Crypto Kid channel. But in the meantime, until President Trump comes around, we have to go through some very important analysis for Bitcoin. We need to go through some very important analysis for Ethereum. Bitcoin came down to the 54 simple moving average exactly as predicted. We've been sharing multiple bearish signs for Bitcoin. We've been stating that the 54 simple moving average is going to be reached, and Bitcoin has come down, and we've come exactly down to this blue line. But the question everybody's asking is, okay, what is going to happen next? Over on weeks, we went ahead and we opened a limit order to go and long Bitcoin if we were to see a move down to the 54 simple moving average. This position has officially activated and is in profit, so congrats to anyone that decided to go and buy the 54 simple moving average. It's currently in profits. We're currently bouncing. Great stuff, but this is far from being over. It is far from being over, and we're going to show you why that is the case. Ethereum looking a little bit spooky. Ethereum also over on the weekly time frame, it came down perfectly to our targets. The first target was the 365 level, and on Pinex, I was opening trading bots to buy Ethereum all the way down to 3,365, and it did, and now it's going to sell if we can see a continuation to the upside. And then the worst case scenario was the 54 simple moving average, just like Bitcoin. 3.13 was the worst case scenario, and we just wicked it, and now we're holding. But we're in a big head and shoulders pattern. It's a concerning one. We're retesting its neckline, and we're going to show you what I think is going to happen here for both Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the cryptocurrency markets. Let's refresh. There we go. So President Trump is going on stage. There he is. This is an important one. It's important simply because today is the day where the Supreme Court is going to give the decision on whether if President Trump can continue with tariffs or not. I will give you the full updates following President Trump's speech. But in the meantime, let's listen to the man of the hour, President Trump, as he delivers very important remarks about the economy for America. It's going to be an important one according to the Speaker of the House. So let's listen to Trump.
Wow, what a nice group. And I love Miami. I love to be with the people. Many of you are not from Miami, but that's okay too. And I'm thrilled to be back in magnificent Florida, Miami, Florida, with thousands of incredible business leaders and true American patriots. That's what you are. We're gathered today on the one-year anniversary of the single most consequential election victory, they say. This is them, this isn't me. I'm a very modest person. I would never say this. The single most consequential election victory in American history. It's possible. I mean, it's possible. We've done a lot. On November 5th, 2024, the American people reclaimed our government. We restored our sovereignty. We lost a little bit of sovereignty last night in New York, but we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We rescued our economy, regained our liberty, and together we saved our country. On that magnificent night, 365 days ago, you know, I was with a group of very important people, and they say, think of it, last week, just last week, 6 days ago, 7 days ago, they said, you were campaigning 1 year ago. I said, no, it felt like I've been in this position for so long, and it's right. At that point, 1 year ago, I was actually campaigning. We did the McDonald's shot. Remember the McDonald's shot? We did the garbage truck shot.
It's crazy to think that Trump, exactly a year ago, he got elected, and that's actually what started causing Bitcoin to go up from the mid-60s all the way to $100,000. It all began exactly a year ago today. Crazy.
By the way, by 1.4 million votes, which is unprecedented. Biggest victory ever in Florida, including an 11-point victory right here in a place
Okay, when he starts saying something important, I'll jump back. Right now, he's not doing so. I'm listening to it in my headphones. We'll get into it when he says something important. So let's cover some of the Bitcoin Ethereum analysis. I want to leave the Supreme Court stuff after President Trump's speech. When we go to the Bitcoin price chart, we bounced very nicely from the 98.7 level. So this was Bitcoin coming below $100,000 for the first time in over 140 days. So if you look at this wick, between there to there, that's 140 days exactly. So Bitcoin hadn't broken $100,000 in 140 days. And yesterday was the time we did that. We spoke about a pattern recognition, right? We spoke about the double tops that we've experienced in this bull market. Okay, and every single time that Bitcoin produced this double top, you saw a correction to the 54 simple moving average. This was the case in the Japanese yen carry trade. You hit the 54 simple, and that gave you the support to jump into $100,000. When Trump introduced the first round of tariffs in April of this year, you came down to the 54 simple moving average, and then you pumped into the $120,000 level. And I said that, look, we have the same double top, and we're likely going to come down to the 54 simple, and we've done so, right? But the only difference between this time and the prior times is that we don't have the luxury, like we did before, to consolidate at the 54 simple for months, like we've done so before. Because when you go to the Bitcoin cycle comparison, theoretically, the top should have happened already. So think about it. The top for Bitcoin should have already happened for Bitcoin when you look at the Bitcoin cycle comparison. So you're running on extra time here. And the fact that we're running on extra time, and Trump is speaking, but he's not saying anything important. I'm listening to him. I'm going to get to it as soon as he starts saying something important, okay? So unlike prior cycles, you don't have the luxury to be consolidating for months at the 54 simple moving average because we're running on extra time. The halving cycles indicate that the Bitcoin top has already happened, like in October. You know, there was a very scary statistic, very, very scary statistic of a gentleman basically he was on Twitter and he posted, let me see if I can find it for you later on, but he posted that the time it takes from the bottom of the halving cycle to the top has been the same every single time. And that pointed to October the 6th, which was exactly the top, right? So we saw October the 6th being the top for Bitcoin, and theoretically, from a halving cycle standpoint, that should have been the top. So I'm being a little bit cautionary here. I'm not switching short yet. Don't get me wrong. We're still very much bullish on our weeks positions, which if you want to start trading, you can go to the first link in the description down below. He's live right now, but he's talking about Sleepy Joe. Okay, so it's not that important at the moment. We'll jump into it as soon as it is going into something important. If you want to trade, the first link is in the description for weeks, obviously. That's where I've been opening positions. Okay, he's saying something about the stock market.
Record high, record high, record high. All of them, all of the different exchanges. GDP growth in the second quarter was an amazing, almost 4%. And as you know, they said, oh, it'll be 2% or 1%. And it's been really helped a lot by the tariffs. It's been really helped incredibly because this is really a transition period. We went from a horrible, failed country to a tremendous success. It's a transition, and yet we did almost 4%, triple and even quadruple. Almost every other country anywhere in the world. Think of that. In the third quarter, we're on track to achieve an estimated 4.2, maybe more. Who knows? I think if you go a couple of years out, you're going to see numbers like you've never seen because all of these places that are now under construction, they're being built, they're going to be open, and thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs are coming in, even building them. But when they open, that's when you're really going to see the numbers. We're building some of the biggest buildings ever built anywhere in the world. The AI buildings, you know, they can cover. They show displays of them. They can cover the island of Manhattan. They're so big. They literally can cover the island of Manhattan. In 9 months, we've lifted over 600,000 Americans off of food stamps, which is a record. 1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today. Think of that. Almost 2 million American-born workers are employed today, more than when I took office. That's 9 months ago. Can you imagine that? And I tell Republicans, if you want to win elections, you got to talk about these facts, you know. It's really easy to win elections when you talk about the facts. And we have more people working now than at any time in the history of our country. Right now, we have more people working. These are things you have to talk about. It doesn't just happen. You got to tell them. It's wonderful to do them, but if people don't talk about them, then you can do not so well in elections. Wages for workers are rising at the fastest pace in over 60 years. Those are workers, and that's what we love. We love the workers. Since I took office, wages for the typical factory worker are up $1,300. Construction workers' pay is up $2,200, and miners are up nearly $5,000 this year alone. And that's good because it's not, such an extra cost to the company. It really isn't. Somebody would say, oh, what's going to cost more? The fact is that they're doing such business like they've never done. You're going to start seeing numbers coming out very soon that are going to blow your mind. Under Biden, we had the worst inflation in modern history. We had inflation that was so bad, costing the typical family about $33,000 over a period of time. Their policies send food prices up 23. They come in, when I first came in, I was in for 3 days, and one of the fake news members, they're all back there. That's a lot of press. Fake news. They said, egg prices are through the roof. I was there for 3 days, and this maniac, this lunatic person, happened to be a woman. Sir, what are you going to do about egg prices? And they'd gone up like 4 or 5 times. I said, well, you just told me it has a problem. And people weren't buying Easter eggs. You believe it? I said, we're buying Easter eggs for the White House, for the egg hunt, the famous egg hunt. But within a couple of months, we got them down. We have a great Department of Agriculture headed by Brooke Rollins, and we did a great job, and we got them down to the level they originally were a long time ago. And we have that in just about everything. And if we don't have it, we get them down. Their policies sent food prices soaring 23%, the Biden policies. And it wasn't him. It was the people surrounding him around the desk. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. Biden. How the hell did that happen? Well, I know how it happened. A rigged election. That's how it happened. Think of the damage done. Although I must tell you, but this is a much more powerful term. I mean, this is a much better term.
Doesn't it feel like he just says the same thing in every speech sometimes?
You watch what happens in New York. Terrible. But you're going to see that same thing. And I hope it doesn't happen, but you're going to see it. Gas prices are surging to $5 a gallon, and even higher, and mortgage rates skyrocketed by 152%. But under the Trump administration, all of that is changing. Prices are coming down very fast, and we're bringing them back to the beautiful part where you can have, and you can truly say, we're talking about the American dream again. You didn't used to hear that term. You heard it during my 4 years, and then it disappeared. Now you're hearing it again more than ever. Because we had the most successful economy in the history of our country during my first 4 years. We rebuilt the economy, cut the biggest tax cut in history. We had the biggest tax cut in history, the biggest regulation cut in history. That's why we had the great economy. And now the only difference is we're doing better this time. Actually, we're going to have a bigger, better, stronger economy than the first 4 years. And that was the most successful economy in history. Gasoline prices have plummeted to the lowest in 2 decades, and we're going to soon see $2 gasoline. Think of that, $2 a gallon. It was up to $4.50, $5. And when you get gasoline and you get oil and gas down, it's so big, it's so massive, the importance of it, that everything else starts to follow. And that's what's happening. Grocery prices are way down, and Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal, this is the greatest. They're greatest, they're wonderful. They come out every year.
I love his word choices also. Biggest, tremendous, hugest. It's great.
Up, it's 40%, 30% more. Is 25% lower than 1 year ago. Isn't that great? That's a big deal, Rima. That's a big deal. I don't know if they care about that in Saudi Arabia, but here it means a lot. We got the princess here from Saudi Arabia. She's got a lot of cash. Serious cash, and she's a great person. So she doesn't care about the price of a turkey is down a little bit, She doesn't have to worry about it. Since March, the price of eggs is down 85%. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, despite the fact that we have a total nincompoop at the Federal Reserve. It was recommended by one of my real great people, who I'd never spoke to again. And the cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 a year. Day by day, we're making America affordable again. It's going to be affordable again at a really record pace. And, you know, other people are going to take credit. All the mayors and all the governors, they're going to say what a great job. They didn't do a damn thing. Yet as we speak, the Democrats in Congress are trying to put all of this progress at risk and drag us back to the Biden policies of soaring prices, crushing energy costs, massive spending, open borders, let the world come into our country from prisons and from mental institutions, let them pour in, and rampant inflation. That's what Biden gave us, all of those things. With the reckless Democrat shutdown, virtually every Democrat in Congress has voted to hold the American people hostage in an effort to extort hundreds of billions of dollars in new spending. They're demanding free health care for illegal aliens that just came into our country from prisons and from mental institutions, and drug dealers and drug addicts, and they want to give $1.5 trillion in giveaways that would turbocharge rapid inflation again, as they did the first time. You remember that just a couple of years ago, 4 disastrous years we just had. They were the worst years. Meanwhile, the radical left Democrats are causing millions of Americans who depend on food stamps to go without benefits. They're forcing federal workers to go without paychecks, and they're stranding thousands of travelers at the airports. And you understand it, and they understand it. All because they want to return to the failed Biden policies that created, and also Obama policies. I watched him the other day up talking, well, Donald Trump is a mean person. I'm not a mean person. I just want to have a country that's great again. Is that okay? I'm not a mean person. He's a mean person. He's a divider. He's a divider. Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. And by the way, ask him how he's doing on his museum library.
I can't believe the president is saying he's a mean person to another president. Oh my God, this is...
Not a particularly good location. He's not into real estate, you know? He doesn't know about location. He doesn't know about location. But he built it in a location that's not going to be too good. But the thing has come to a dead halt. It's way over budget. It's sort of like Gavin Newsom in California. He's got a train that was supposed to go from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which is a stupid idea because an airplane is faster. I don't care how fast it goes. And they had plenty of airplanes. San Francisco, inside San Francisco to inside right there, L.A. And what they did is they said, oh, man, this has been going on for years. It's billions and billions of dollars over budget. So what they decided to do is cut it so that it doesn't go into San Francisco and into L.A. It way short of both. And then they cut it again and again and again. Pretty soon they're going to have like 2 miles of track. Billions and billions of dollars. Totally incompetent. The biggest cost overrun proportionately that I've ever seen. Many, many, many times more. And it's no longer the same. It was supposed to go into the city. Now it's way short, many miles short of the city. So they're going to drop you off and you can walk the rest of the way. That train is going to haunt him. You watch, because he doesn't have what it takes. I tell you that. Slimy guy. He's a slimy one. Maybe that should be his nickname. Slimy Newsom.
Do we want to continue with this? I mean, I'm still listening. Maybe we do some more Bitcoin analysis in the meantime. So Bitcoin is going up, and actually I have the full Bloomberg breakdown of the key takeaways from Wednesday's hearing, which is today's hearing, on whether if President Trump can continue with the tariffs or not. And honestly, I think that's a more important topic than this speech we're listening to. Yeah, I'm just listening to it, but it's really, really not that important. I think we should just finish it because I don't think it's going to last much longer. So let's finish it and then we'll go into everything in detail.
That they've done 30 times before. And to reopen government immediately, just reopen it. They don't like it to be reopened because we're setting records. They think actually, I don't think anything's going to hurt. We are so strong now that I'm not sure that anything's going to hurt. But it would be good to open it up, take care of the people with jobs that aren't going to get paid and aren't getting paid. And no matter what, we will not let them impose their inflation-causing extremism on the American people. We're not going to pay $1.5 billion for people that came into our country illegally, okay? If you don't mind.
By the way, they have to open government. If they don't open the government, if you look at liquidity, the reverse repos in the Fed, they are down massively. Like, we're in the same amount of liquidity stress that we were in during 2020 and 2019. So if they don't open the government, then people are going to be continuing to work for no money, essentially, until the shutdown would be over. They're literally working without getting paid. And this and many other factors are adding stress to regional banks. So if they don't open the government, it's going to add to the pressure. Less liquidity means that prices of things, including risk on assets specifically, like Bitcoin and the S&P, they go down. So they have to open the government. More on that later.
It's going to be a 4-star general, or it's going to be a big cabinet position, or it's going to be something with medical or whatever. I take my pen and I sign it. In his case, they walk it into a room and they give it to somebody who's no idea who Biden is. But Biden doesn't have any idea who he is either. And they have a machine sign it, the auto pen. And all of the pardons, he gave thousands of pardons to people. He had no idea about it. He didn't know about it. And therefore, all those pardons are void. You know, you have to have, it's a very complicated thing if you're going to use a machine. You have to do it properly. And he didn't have any idea what was happening. And this is what we had as a president. We don't want that. You have the opposite right now. I don't want to be braggadocious, but you have the exact, I know exactly what's happened. If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party.
Okay, I think let's stop. Let's stop this. It's honestly, I think it's a waste of time. I think he's going to finish up soon anyway. So that's a bit of a waste of time. I apologize for that. I honestly thought it would be very important. It's okay. I think we need to do some very critical Bitcoin price analysis anyways. So let's go and conduct some of that Bitcoin TA. I want to bring you the breaking news from the Supreme Court. So I mentioned that they have to, right? They have to increase liquidity, because if they don't increase liquidity, if the government shutdown continues like this, it's going to be a massive problem. All right. And if you don't know what this chart looks at, this chart is looking at the Federal Reserve Reverse Repo Facility, which is like an overdraft credit system. So if banks need, or institutions that deal with the Fed, which is the central bank, if they need immediate liquidity overnight or during the daytime, the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the US, they can give liquidity sort of like a loan, like a very short-term loan, and they inject liquidity when it's necessary. This facility has been used a lot over the past few days. And I want to find you the exact data point, which I found shocking. All right, so look at this. Okay? So the Fed's ongoing quantitative tightening, launched in mid-2022, has drained over 1.5 trillion from the system by letting securities mature without reinvestment. This accelerated in 2025 after the debt ceiling resolution in July, as the Treasury issued trillions in new debt to be able to increase the national debt ceiling from about $34 trillion to an open-ended amount. And we've gone up like 4.1 trillion in an incredibly short amount of time. Very, very bad. Okay, I'll try to keep my vocabulary as simple as Trump, right? Reserves fell from 3.4 trillion in January of 2024 to 2.8 trillion by October of 2025, with a 102 billion weekly drop in one recent period, the steepest since 2020. This was over the past 2-3 weeks. Regional banks, already full on balance sheets from pandemic-era Treasury buys, face frozen liquidity, and selling these assets lock in huge unrealized losses amid high interest rates. So the Fed is essentially forced to cut rates, and the government shutdown is not helping with this liquidity crisis. Right? So what does this mean for Bitcoin? Well, good news is we're getting a bounce from the 54 simple moving average. But honestly, things don't look too good. All right. I've stated that I think we will come down to the 54 simple and then jump back to the bull and bear market support band, which is around $109,000 now. And following a test there, it is very possible that actually we see what happened in the previous cycle. And this is exactly 4 years ago. So post-halving year, this is December. So it's 3 years and 11 months ago. You saw Bitcoin hit the 54 simple in November, December, and then you saw a bounce to the bull and bear market support band. It had already crossed bearish at that point, and following a retest, you got a rejection, you fell below the 54 simple, and that is when the bear market began. Fast forward to this price action, look, the bull and bear market support band already crossed bearish. And if you are to see that retest in December, then get the rejection and fall below the 54 simple, then it's over. All right. So the good news is it's still not over. We're still in a bullish uptrend. We're still in a time where I think, final Hail Mary buy the dip trades are possible and feasible, just in case something insane happens and just in case, markets decide to go crazy and do something out of the ordinary. I think it's still okay to be buying, in my opinion, but this is the last time I'm going to be buying. Look, the fear and greed index is at extreme fear. And at all of these touch points to the 54 simple moving average, we were at extreme fear. At this stage in 2023, right before the Btc launch, you were at extreme fear. And then you bounced to 49 and then ultimately 74. And then during the Japanese yen carry trade, you came down to 49. That was exactly the 54 simple moving average right there. That was also extreme fear. And then you saw a move to the upside. This felt like end of the world. Remember? Everybody was saying billions and trillions of dollars from the Japanese yen carry trade is going to unwind into the markets. Okay? So that was how it felt like then. It felt like the absolute end of the world, but markets rallied. That was the capitulation. That was when everybody was the most fearful. So that was the low point. And fast forward to President Trump initiating tariffs in the first half, you saw a drop to $74,000. Right? And following that drop to $74,000, that was also accompanied by extreme fear, and that was the bottom. So now you're also at the 54 simple moving average. You're at extreme fear, and this is why I'm just not selling. I really don't want to sell during extreme fear. It doesn't make sense to me at all. So I'm still bullish. I'm still on long positions on weeks. I'm still buying the dip on Pinex, like you can see on Ethereum. On Solana, it's a bit of a different story. I'll get to that in a minute. But if you want to be doing the same, links are down in the description for Pinex and weeks. Okay, so still buying the dip. Concerning signs, the moment I'm going to flip short, the moment I'm going to flip into bearish territory is if we see the bull and bear market support band cross into the 54 simple moving average. But with the looks of liquidity, I know quantitative tightening is going to hit the market. But the thing is, when you see quantitative tightening hit the market, I don't think I have that chart on me now, but when quantitative tightening begins, that marks the low for altcoins. All right, so according to Benjamin Cohen, we can still see another 30% drop in altcoins. Because when quantitative tightening ends, that's going to be December the 1st, 2025, so in under 1 month's time, that is when quantitative tightening ends. And in the prior to QT ending, so this was QT ending, or in the last time that we ended QT, you fell to 0.25. That's altcoins against their Bitcoin pairs. 0.25 gave you support. And a few months later, after quantitative easing was introduced, then altcoins started running against their Bitcoin pairs. So it's possible that we see another 30% drop in altcoins against Bitcoin. And then about mid-2026, when liquidity is finally injected, then we can see a pump potentially. That's how I'm looking at things at the moment. But for now, I'm still bullish. I would just be careful. I'm switching more into USDT, to be honest with you. And I'm okay to be doing that because from my spot holding perspective, derivatives, I'm still long. I'm waiting for the crossover. But from a spot holding perspective, I'm actually switching into more and more. Oh my God, do you know what President Trump just said? He's still talking. He called Fetcher Powell a nincompoop. This is the president of the United States of America. I want to listen to that.
Slow. We have a great man in the fairest trade deals anywhere in the world. We're leading China. We're leading. So they are building their own produce electricity, although Florida Power and Light is doing
Can we listen to that?
plans for people. They're doing their peaks. My goal is to have the best tax rates, the lowest. You can have a communist or a communism. Never seen anything like it because these minds are genius to them. Looking at. No idea. But I said, you're designing your own electric plant. And they didn't believe.
Okay, we missed it. That was funny. Apparently you called him a nincompoop. Yeah, anyways. So look, quantitative tightening, okay, QT. QT ends, let's go back to QT. QT ends December 1st. You can see a drop into QT, and a few months after QT ends, then quantitative easing is introduced. And then when quantitative easing begins, it takes another like 2-3 months for things to go up. So we could be looking at things going up maybe towards the middle of 2026, towards the end of 2026. So from a spot holding perspective, I actually started flipping more into stable coins. I'm willing to take that risk if Bitcoin is able to surpass this bull and bear market support band and go above $113.8 thousand, then I'm fine to buy at a premium and reallocate my stable coins into crypto for a more expensive price. It's just I'm avoiding risk of capitulation. Okay, so from a spot perspective, I'm actually flipping more into USDT, but from a derivatives perspective, I'm still in long positions, and I just wanted to let you know on that for Bitcoin. That is the analysis for Bitcoin. Let's go into Ethereum. When it comes to Ethereum, Ethereum saw a drop all the way to 3.1, actually even $3,000. We came and bounced from the 54 simple moving average on the weekly time frame, which is what we said Ethereum would do. And currently we're at 3.450. The issue with Ethereum is that we have a massive head and shoulders pattern on the daily time frame. This is the left shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder. We got a bearish cross on Ethereum with the bull and bear market support band, and now we're retesting the neckline of this head and shoulder. So if we cannot close 2-3 daily candles back above this neckline, then unfortunately it's going to mean that Ethereum will likely draw itself towards the $2.7 to $2.9 thousand range. This is not yet confirmed, so I'm not going to emphasize this too much, but just keep in mind, if Ethereum is not able to close 1-2 daily candles back over 3.4, it's going to mean that we're going to come down to the 2.9, 2.7 level. Still in my long positions on week, still in long positions for Ethereum, but we need to be mindful about this head and shoulders pattern. It is very, very, it's very important. Somebody in the chat is obsessively asking if I'm a Muslim or not. I am a Muslim. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. All right, so that is Ethereum. When it comes to Solana, Solana was a bit more concerning for me because Solana on the weekly, you can see a bearish crossover take place on the bull and bear market support band. But here you can see the bull and bear market support band is about to cross with the 54 simple moving average. On top of this, you lost a critical line of support, which is this line of support on the daily time frame. And to me, it is possible that Solana comes down all the way to the lower bound of this handle of the greater cup and handle pattern. So how am I trading this? Well, on Solana, you probably remember me opening this position, but on Solana, I have a trading bot that is going to buy, worst case, to $77, which I don't think is going to happen. I think worst case for me would be $100. So I have a parameter of a Solana bot, which would be buying all the way until hypothetically $77, and then selling all the way up to $500. Because I think that overall, Solana can reach the $500 territory. Hold on. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. I apologize. So hold on. I'm gonna blow my nose. Just give me 2 seconds, okay? Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna quickly blow my nose, and then I'll be with you in 1 second. Okay, I'm still here. One second. Okay. All right. I can come back now. Sorry, guys. Let's put back the camera. All right. Okay. So I think that Solana, it can drop to the $100 territory, possible, right? I can't give you too big of an accuracy on that. That's why I have a trading bot, which would just buy the dip as much as it can. And then whenever is the bottom, it's going to, well, start selling to the upside. That's why I like trading bots. So for Solana, I think worst case is the $100 to $120 level, but the upside is massive. I still think we can actually 5x for Solana. So I'm pretty bullish in the macro, but in the short term, obviously not so bullish. That is Solana. And the final chart that I will go into before we cover the presidential tariff situation and what went down in the Supreme Court is the total crypto market cap. So the total crypto market cap is also at very important support, just like how Bitcoin is at very important linear supports. The total crypto market cap is facing the line of support of a huge rising wedge pattern, which is usually bearish. It is usually bearish, but if you look at the M2 money supply index, I think we're gonna have to input it again. Time shifts by KH. That's the one. If you look at the M2 money supply index, M2 money supply was able to break out of this pattern. That's why I have some hopes. Okay, I still have some hopes, but yeah, we need to be on the cautionary side with this one too. Very important line of support of the rising wedge. We're currently holding it. If we do see a monthly breakdown from this total crypto cap, then it's going to be truly over. So if you wanted to monitor a specific chart for the end of the bull market, the total crypto market cap chart is also a very good one to be analyzing and keeping on your screen to check and refresh every day. All right, so that is the roundup of analysis. I'll get to your questions at the end, so stay tuned until the end and we'll do some Q&A. Don't worry, now I really want to cover what went down in the Supreme Court. All right, so here are the 5 key takeaways from Wednesday's hearing. If you guys don't know, there was a massive debate on whether if President Trump should have the power to be imposing massive amounts of tariffs, or if that power should be held solely by Congress, and President Trump shouldn't have that power. That is the main debate here. And President Trump doesn't agree, of course. And today we had the discussion in the Supreme Court, and they can rule if Trump should use tariffs or not, or if it should be held in Congress. If they give the decision, which will come between January and June of 2026, that Trump cannot use tariffs, what will end up happening is that every single tariff that President Trump introduced since April of 2025, we covered that list on yesterday's video, all of those tariffs are going to be removed. And there are a lot of tariffs. And my issue is that if he does remove these tariffs, then he's negotiated multiple ceasefires, multiple endings of wars. He's increased the power and strength of America. It's true with these tariffs. So if they're gone, even though markets prefer free trade, I think there's going to be a lot of geopolitical uncertainty, which is why markets could go down. Good news is this decision will be come to and implemented somewhere between January and June of 2026. So we still have some time to worry about it later, but when it comes, it's going to be very important. And that's why I'm going to read you the 5 key takeaways from today's hearing. Key takeaway number 1, key conservative justices expressed skepticism about the legality of Trump's tariffs. Interesting. Chief Justice John Roberts said they were an imposition of tariffs on Americans, and that has always been the core power of Congress. Trump appointed Justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett also asked skeptical questions and probed arguments by tariff opponents. So even the Trump appointed or the conservative appointed justices, they are skeptical about Trump imposing the tariffs that he is imposing. U.S. Solicitor General D. John Sauer was repeatedly pressed to defend his contention that the 1977 law at the center of the case, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which gives the executive, which is the president, powers to regulate trade. It doesn't give the specific word, okay, you can tariff and tax countries. It gives him the power to regulate trade in a national emergency. And it seems like we've been in a national emergency for the past however long Trump has been president. And using that excuse, he's been able to implement such tariffs. So U.S. Solicitor General D. John Sauer was repeatedly pressed to defend his contention that the 1977 law at the center of the case, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, gives Trump the authority to collect tens of billions of dollars in tariffs a month. Potential reimbursement of tariffs came up several times. Neil Catayo, a lawyer for the small businesses that sued, was asked by Barrett how that process would work if his side wins. If the tariffs are overturned, businesses may seek the return of billions already paid to the U.S. Treasury, which would create an even bigger liquidity crunch. So you don't actually want that, I think. Justice Brett Kavanaugh pushed back on the idea that tariffs are unprecedented, saying Richard Nixon in the 70s imposed a 10% worldwide tax on every import, which exists today, plus a bunch more tariffs. Into the U.S. Kavanaugh also pushed back on the arguments that a statute must contain the word tariff to grant a president powers to impose them. Because, like I said, if you look at the actual wording, it only gives Trump power to regulate trade, but it doesn't give you the power specifically to impose tariffs or impose taxation. And then the final point is that Justice Sonia Sotomayor, apologies if I'm mispronouncing these names, questioned the circumstances around some of Trump's recent tariffs, underscoring many of the arguments made by the plaintiffs who say that the president's actions undercut his claim that his levies help address national emergencies. The president threatened to impose a 10% tax on Canada for an added run on tariffs during the World Series, she said. He imposed a 40% tax on Brazil because its Supreme Court permitted the prosecution of one of its former presidents for criminal activity. So Trump is like using tariffs when he's unhappy about matters that occur within a specific country, which technically should be none of his concern. So, look, my personal conclusion from this is I think Trump is using and abusing national emergency to impose taxation on countries. Like the Brazil thing is a bit strange, I must admit. So I personally think that Congress should have power to do taxation at massive levels. Like when we talk about 100%, 140%, like what he was imposing on China. Like when it comes to that, I think it should be Congress. You know, I know that America is a constitutional republic, but still, you know, the president shouldn't have that much power because clearly it is a lot of power. He's influencing global markets. He's influencing businesses and small businesses. You know, when you look at Apple, for example, if Apple is now threatened or forced to invest $100 billion, hypothetically, into the country to start producing Apple iPhones in America and ditch production in China, in Taiwan, whatever, India, right? Because of Trump's policies, when Trump is gone after 4 years, then what's going to happen? Another president comes in because these tariffs are like executive orders. They can be removed and put in by a new administration. What if the next president is anti-tariffs? Then all of the investment that Apple made to produce phones in America was for waste. And you've put that tariff and the result of investment for Apple, all of that extra spending is going to be put onto the consumer. So the consumer is going to have to pay 50% more for an iPhone. So it doesn't make sense. Whether if Congress gives the decision, then that decision is much longer lasting and it comes with much more thought and it's much less spontaneous. So I personally think that Trump shouldn't have the power to do so many tariffs. Hasn't been successful so far. So far, I think it has been successful because he has been able to stop wars, create ceasefires, etc., according to him, obviously, because he says it's thanks to the tariffs. But it can go wrong. Like at some point, it can go wrong potentially. Or if another president was doing it, maybe that president would have made wrong decisions. So you never know. And I think this power should solely rest in Congress rather than the executive. It's my opinion. You can disagree, which is perfectly fine. Let me know your thoughts. I am actually curious. Okay. So that is the market roundup. Let's go through your questions and see what you guys have been saying. And then we'll call it a night. Okay. And then we'll come back with another video tomorrow. Okay, some people are agreeing with me. Awesome, that's cool. Even if you don't agree, it's also cool. I really don't mind. It's I'm not a professor in economics, by no means necessary, but from my understanding of the markets, it's just my opinion. And by the way, Trump is not a economic professor by any means necessary either. Somebody said, you yesterday said it's over and now we're going to the moon, lol. That is not what I said. I would encourage everybody to not only read titles of videos and watch the content. That's what I would say to that comment. I see a lot of talk about religion in the chat, which I'm not sure why that's happening. Guys and girls, like everybody's free to have the beliefs they have, and everybody's free to believe in the religion they're believing in. So let's maybe not argue on that. And most religions, at its core, is the same. It's just about being kind, being a good person, doing the right thing, believe in a creator, worship, etc., right? But in its core, it's just being a good person, worshiping and doing good things. That's the very pure fundamentals of most religions. So let's not divide ourselves, and let's not fall into the trap of arguing with each other based off of politics, who is a right or who's a left, who's a conservative and who's a Democrat, who supports this religion or that religion, who's from this country or that country, who supports X football team or Y football team, who likes Cristiano or Messi, who likes Ethereum or Bitcoin. Like, guys, let's not divide ourselves. We're supposed to be, we're one people, right? We need to be united and we need to be strong together. We can disagree about stuff, and that's perfectly fine. Without our differences, we can't innovate, we can't grow. But the moment we start arguing, the moment we start insulting, the moment we start saying bad things about each other because of our differences, that's the point where we fail as society. So please make sure to listen to other people. Give them praise. You may disagree, and that's fine. But debate it sensibly. Don't let people divide us. The bad people are there to put narratives in your head to divide you. Don't let them accomplish that goal. Ronaldo is the GOAT, no debate. Oliver Mester says, okay, will there be a final push in price action this year? Look, I can't, basically, right? The answer lies between one very simple thing, and humans like to overcomplicate things. And when you get a simple answer, it doesn't compute. It's like, no, it can't be this simple. But I promise you it is. Like, if the 54 simple moving average and the bull and bear market support band cross into each other, no, there's not going to be a final push. If we get rejected at the bull and bear market support band, which is 110, 109, then no, unlikely that there's going to be a final push. We likely come down, and then maybe we start rallying back up towards the end or middle of 2026. Okay, so if there are no, and I'm sorry for diverting away from Bitcoin and crypto. I know maybe it's not my place entirely, but I like philosophy. I like thinking a little philosophically, and yeah, I like to share my thoughts on things apart from Bitcoin and crypto also sometimes. Could you kind of estimate your net worth? Well, I know what my net worth is, but I don't think it's wise sharing things like that. Because it's just, yeah, I don't like it when people take that and share it and put it out of context. And yeah, it's not a wise thing to do. I would recommend not sharing your net worth with anyone also. Do you do journaling for your trades? Not really, because I can see my order history on exchanges. So I know some people do, but I don't find it necessary. My net worth is looking a whole lot better today than yesterday. All right, guys, cool. I think I'll end it off here. So maybe I'll take one or two more questions because I like answering them. And then I'll go head home and sleep. That's my plan of action. Never say your wealth. Most humans don't react well due to envy. It's correct. I have a lot of incredibly wealthy friends, and one in particular is very, very, very very strict on this. Like he never shares what he plans to do. He never shares what his dreams are. He never shares how much money he has. And the thing is, like, it's really sad, but most people, even if they don't intend to do so, they do get jealous, and that jealous energy can put you down. So it's never a good idea to share your finances, to share your goals and what you want to do. Like I share it. One of my biggest goals is to become an actor, and I do it because it's something that if I do share more and more, then maybe I can get some opportunity. But if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have shared what my goals and dreams are. So to some extent, I do it because if I do share it, then it's for me, for social media. Like I can maybe get into a movie, so on and so forth. But if it's for you, then I would recommend keeping things to yourself, even if it's your close family. Even if it's your close family, people can put envious energy even if they don't mean it. So keeping things to yourself or sharing things only with people you know for sure are satisfied and happy with their lives and really cannot expect anything bad to happen to you. Like some people are very positive and some people are very satisfied, very happy internally, that if you do share something nice about yourself with them, they'll only congratulate you and lift you up. But most people are not happy with their lives. And if you share dreams of success and if you share good things that you're doing, it's going to make them insecure. And their insecurity will convert into negative energy. And that negative energy will go out to put you down. No Ferrari yet. Well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I know Fafa says that the bull market is over. I'm not going to call for the end of the bull market now, uh, but it's possible. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's where I'm going to end it off. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure streaming, as always. Final question. Why Ferrari? Look at McLarens. McLarens are very, very unreliable. So I love the design of McLarens, but they create a lot of problems and they break down a lot. Like these supercars are hard to maintain. There's always some sort of issue. And McLarens, they have very, very bad reliability, whereas Ferraris are better made. So that's why I'm going to go with Ferrari instead of McLaren. All right, guys.